Why are video games fun? Why do we get hooked on them? And how can we make other aspects of life feel the same way? Today we're going to cover the concepts of challenge, skill, match, and agency so we can see that in reality, everything is a game.
When a challenge you are faced with is well below your skill level, the challenge does not excite you. You are bored. When a challenge you are faced with is far above your skill level, the challenge feels impossible. You are uncomfortable, anxious, and afraid. When the challenge you are faced with meets your skill level, or is ever so slightly out of reach, you feel energized. You feel excited. You feel enjoyment. You feel an intense focus. You can't think about anything else but the present moment because it requires your full attention. But you're also not fearing failure because you know you can do it. This is what's called flow. Flow is a concept developed by author and psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. And yes, this is how you spell it. Think about any video game you've ever played. Think about some of your favorite challenging moments you've had to overcome. I guarantee you were in the flow state during that moment. That's why it stands out to you. It would not have been an epic or memorable moment if it was very easy for you. Likewise, if you were nowhere near the skill level, or perhaps your character was under-leveled or under-geared, required to overcome that challenge, then you did not overcome the challenge. You were likely frustrated. On occasion, you might be able to cheese your way through this kind of thing with some unintended game mechanics. Maybe you figured out a way to attack the boss once and then hide behind a wall for a few seconds so he wouldn't hit you, and proceeded to do that for the next 30 minutes until you finally brought him down. Sure, you might have won the battle, but that doesn't feel like much of an epic victory, does it? That's not really one of those favorite gaming moments that's going to stand out to you. In fact, you instantly moved that encounter from one end of the spectrum, challenge far exceeding skill, leading to anxiety and frustration, to the other. Far too easy, thus boring. So why does this even matter? Why does the relationship between the challenge and our skill level matter? Because the fun is right in the middle. The fun is when we're in that flow state. An otherwise great game can be completely thrown off by a poorly designed difficulty curve. If the game gets relatively easier as you progress, likely because your player power grows at a faster rate than the enemies you encounter get more challenging, it feels pretty underwhelming, anticlimactic, and boring. If the game gets frustratingly difficult, where every enemy one-shots you no matter your level or gear, it's just going to be a miserable experience until you say, fuck this, and gently set your controller down on the couch. And you definitely totally did not chuck it across the room. But those games that get it right, well, you might not even notice because you were having too much fun being in the flow state so often. And guess what? Flow state is not unique to conquering a challenging boss in a video game. It can be found in anything that you do. If something is boring to you, find a way to make it more challenging. If something is anxiety-inducing or otherwise psychologically uncomfortable, find a way to make it easier. Is working out in a public gym Monday through Friday intimidating and overwhelming? Start out by doing 2 to 3 workouts per week at home, even if you have no exercise equipment. You can always work your way up as you gain confidence, strength, and consistency. By making it easier to the point that the challenge matches your current skill level, not where you wish it was or where you want it to be someday, where it is in this very moment, you give yourself the opportunity to actually get better. Eventually, you'll be ready to do that thing that used to make you uncomfortable. Instead of banging your head against the wall over and over again, asking, why won't this work? Why can't I do this? Just walk around the corner and take the stairs, one step at a time. I love the Chinese concept of Wu-Wei. It roughly translates to effortless action. This does not mean don't put any effort in or don't attempt. It's closer to what Yoda told Luke.
All right, I'll give it a try.
No, try not. Do or do not. There is no try.
Trying indicates a sense of struggling and fighting against some external force, whereas effortless action, or do or do not, indicates a sense of going with the flow of the river rather than against. This is what flow state feels like. Effortless action. The feeling when effort doesn't feel hard, it feels good. Sometimes trying harder isn't the answer. Sometimes the answer is to realize that you're fighting the flow of the universe, or whatever you want to call it, and to alter your strategy or path to something that feels more natural to you, that you can stop fighting the flow and instead go with it. Where in your life do you feel like you're going against the flow of the universe? Where do you feel like you keep trying harder only for it to backfire? Where in your life do you feel you're following common advice or the advice others have given to you, but it's never felt right to you, as if you were going against the flow of your own river? This concept also ties in pretty nicely with process goals over outcome goals. We hear process versus outcome all the time, but what does that actually mean? It means setting frequent short-term goals on things you have complete control over, your efforts and actions, rather than on an outcome, i.e. winning the game. You don't win by thinking about winning the entire time. You win by executing each individual action as best as you can and being mindful of how you can do better next time. Listen to Kobe's response when asked if he hates losing more than he loves winning.
I'm neither. I play to figure things out. I play to learn.
How did you become one of those people who doesn't seem to be afraid of failing?
It doesn't exist. It's not existent. What the hell does that mean? It's a figment of your imagination. The only way it's a failure on Monday is if you decide to not progress from that. Because, if I fail today, okay, I'm gonna learn something from that failure and I'm gonna try again on Tuesday. And I fail, and I'm gonna try again on Wednesday. So,
the more you lean into process-focused goals over outcome-focused goals, the happier you'll be. And you'll actually make more progress and perform better too. Principle 6, agency. We play video games. We don't watch video games. Sure, there are cinematic and dialogue elements in many games where you do get to sit back and enjoy the show for a bit. It can be a nice breakup in gameplay, but then you get back to playing. In fact, I love cutscenes, especially in-game cutscenes, where you watch the story develop, see your character interacting and speaking with other characters, and then the game seamlessly transitions to play mode and you regain control of your character. God of War comes to mind as a series that's done this particularly well, but there are countless examples. It immerses you further into the story and the character you are playing. You really feel like you are the character you are controlling. But if the entire game was a string of cutscenes put together, it's no longer a game, it's a movie. A game is interactive. You have a controller, or a mouse and keyboard, so that you can influence the outcome of the game. We want to feel in control of that outcome, at least to a large degree. Yes, a story-based game is typically on guardrails. The story has already been written, you are playing within that story, but you feel that your actions as the player are what led to that outcome. And while the destination is already set, the path you take to get there may look very different from someone else's, or even your path the next time you play it. You don't get to see the resolution of the story until you become skilled enough to beat the final boss. You don't even get to face the final boss until you conquer all the challenges that come before. This is agency. Feeling like you're in control of the outcome. Feeling like the choices that you make matter. This is agency on more of a macro level. If we zoom in on individual gameplay elements, we can see agency on a micro level. Let's look at individual examples of high agency, good, and low agency, bad, to see why agency matters. Character control responsiveness and smoothness. High agency. The controls feel very responsive. Your character consistently does exactly what you told them to do via inputs. The response is fast, and your character movement feels smooth and fluid. You feel in complete control of your character. Compare that to low agency. The controls do not feel responsive. Your character doesn't seem to do what you want them to do consistently. The input response seems delayed, and your character movement feels clunky and frustrating. You don't feel in control of your character. Combat systems. High agency. You need to alter your gameplay based on enemy types you encounter. An enemy with a shield requires a different strategy than an enemy without one. Weak enemies may be stunned by your strong attacks, but a large enemy is not, and thus you must deploy more of a hit and run or dodge strategy. You might need to use different types of weapons on different enemies, or simply because of the way you have built your character, you are more proficient at using a sword than, say, a mace. You feel like your choices matter because they do. You get rewarded for solving the combat puzzle by defeating enemies more efficiently, or just being able to beat them, period. Low agency. You know these kind of games. You've played at least one in your life. You can use any attack that you feel like, no matter which type of enemy you're facing, and you will win. You can just spam the same button with no thought, and you will do just as well as if you tried to perform intricate combos or use specific attacks for specific enemies. You feel like your choices don't matter because the outcome is the same no matter what. There are games out there with combat systems like this. They are not good games. Character decisions. High agency. You get to make a choice whether to befriend a particular NPC or make them your foe. If you befriend them, you gain a powerful ally. If you make them your foe, you have a chance to steal their powerful artifact for your own personal gain. This choice alters the storyline in a meaningful way and changes your gameplay experience in a unique way based on the choice you make. Low agency. When a game gives you a choice in dialogue, but the NPC responds the same way regardless of what you choose, and it has no impact on the game whatsoever.
Would you like your first ever Pokémon? No. I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear that. What was that you said?
Sorry, I meant no.
I'm sorry. I didn't quite hear that.
Yes?
Wonderful. That's what I thought you said.
It's cute, but this is a false sense of player agency. It would be amazing to have complete agency, complete control over everything in our lives. At least it sounds amazing. But part of the beauty of life is the uncertainty. A big draw of video games is the sense of control they give you, especially when we don't feel in control of our lives as much as we want to be. There's nothing wrong with this. However, it's important to realize that the sense of control is part of what's drawing us to the game. Where do you feel you are lacking agency in your life? What can you do to give yourself at least a little bit more control over that area? There's almost always something we can do. Our perception is our reality. Can you perceive the situation in a different way that would give you more control? At the very least, make you feel in control of your feelings about the situation. Can you perceive the situation in a different way where you're okay with relinquishing the need for control? One of the most freeing things we can do is to realize we can't control everything. Focus on what you can control. Don't worry about what you can't. Take personal responsibility for what you can control, as opposed to blaming external forces. It's easier to blame external forces than it is to take personal responsibility. But it also gets you nowhere in life.